We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa World Hour. Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126. And we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So yeah, that's who I am, you know.
It's not just talk. Tsepiso Makwetla winds it down on Africa World Hour, 9 to 10 p.m. It's time for Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla. Stay tuned for insights, impact, and inspiration right here on Channel Africa. Available on the Channel Africa app.
And it's a very good evening to you. 2100 hours on this Friday, the 10th of January 2026. A warm welcome to you as we look at what's been happening this Friday. We'll be telling you about the U.S. ambassador to South Africa being sworn in and what that means for diplomatic relations between the two countries. And we'll also tell you about new information resurfacing in Tanzania after a massacre by police officers there who were quelling anti-government protests during the election period last year. So all that and more coming up. Welcome to it. I am Tsepiso Makwetla, and now on to your top stories.
1 hour, one continent, one voice. Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
And we start with this story. Traffic police in the South African province of Gauteng have arrested 35 undocumented foreign nationals on the N1 southbound of Pumlani Plaza during a major roadblock. Officers stopped a minibus and found 4 undocumented passengers before spotting another 15-seater attempting to make a U-turn to evade police. The vehicle was chased and stopped, and police discovered 31 passengers inside the overloaded and unroadworthy minibus, all without legal documents. Gauteng Police spokesperson Sello Marimane says the driver and passengers are now facing charges including overloading, driving an unroadworthy vehicle, and being in the country illegally.
The minibus was also unroadworthy. The driver and all passengers have been detained at Sinoville Police Station facing the following charges: passenger overloading, driving an unroadworthy minibus, and being illegal immigrants in the country. We would like to appeal to our foreign nationals to ensure that they are having legal documents when visiting our country. We will continue to fight lawlessness on the ground, especially passenger overloading, failing to wear seat belts, as well as overspeeding.
Saying in South Africa, Leo Brent Bosel III has been sworn in as the U.S. ambassador designate to South Africa. The U.S. embassy shared an image of Bosel being sworn in by Republican U.S. Senator Ted Cruz in Washington. Sean Bryce Peace reports from New York that Bosel is expected to arrive in South Africa later this month. Sean Bryce Peace has more from New York.
He will formally assume his duties following the presentation of his credentials to President Cyril Ramaphosa, but the exact timeline for that remains unclear. He was confirmed by the U.S. Senate in December in a block vote of 97 nominees along party lines, all Democrats voting against confirmation. Ambassador Bosel promised in his October confirmation hearing to communicate Washington's objections to what he called South Africa's geostrategic drift from non-alignment. Sherman Ricebee's SABC News, New York.
And further afield, United Nations climate chief says America's withdrawal from the global climate treaty is a colossal own goal. President Donald Trump has signed a memorandum ordering U.S. withdrawal from dozens of international organizations, including many combating global warming. The head of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, Simon Steele, says the decision will only harm the U.S. economy, jobs and living standards. The BBC's Matt McGrath has those details.
President Trump's argument here is that these bodies, including the UNFCCC, are globalist and they don't want to continue funding these globalist entities who are acting against America's interests. Those are the words used by Marco Rubio yesterday. And it is very much, as they say, an argument about, I suppose, economics. Should the United States be pushing further into renewables, or should it be continuing to develop its fossil fuel assets as President Trump would see it?
And still on U.S. relations between Somalia and Washington have hit a low point after Washington said it would pause further assistance that benefits the government in Mogadishu, and a dispute over the demolition of a World Food Programme warehouse. Somalia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs earlier disputed the assertion that the U.S. provided aid had been stolen, and said that it remained in WFP custody. The accusation comes as the U.S. pursues an aggressive immigration policy that has posed a stumbling block to relations between Washington and Mogadishu. The Trump administration has barred citizens of Somalia from entering the U.S. and last month said it was auditing immigration cases involving U.S. citizens of Somali origin to detect fraud. Political scientist Cletus Sushfri.
So we are beginning to see more of the U.S. Going against the UN Charter and going against the sovereignty, the Geneva Conventions, and many other international peace treaties. Unfortunately for Somalia, they are just one of them, and it goes without saying that they're going to be seeing a lot of Donald Trump's rhetorics and extracurricular diplomatic issues.
And finally, a wave of unrest across Iran continues to escalate as it enters the 13th consecutive day. It's now seen as the largest outbreak of public unrest since the 2000 uprising over disputed elections. In response, the authorities have imposed a near total internet blackout and have cut telephone and communications. The BBC's Liz Doucette has the latest.
Death to the dictator, shouts this crowd, a cry sounding across Iran as streets nationwide fill with anger and defiance. Others yell, "Don't be afraid," as security forces hit back in some places with gunfire and tear gas. In others, they appear to be exercising restraint. And there have been slogans in support of the exiled former Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who had called on Iranians to coordinate their protests across the country.
Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
And we move on now to our top story. The United States Embassy in South Africa has announced the appointment of Leo Brent Boswell III as its new ambassador. In a post on X social media platform, the office shared a picture of Boswell being sworn into the position by Republican U.S. Senator Ted Cruz in Washington. The embassy further stated that it looked forward to Boswell's leadership, who will advance what it calls American priorities and promote a safer, stronger and more prosperous America through continued engagement with Pretoria. He will formally assume his duties following the presentation of his credentials to President Cyril Ramaphosa, but the exact timeline for that remains unclear. For a look at what his appointment means, and we're joined now by veteran U.S. diplomat Brooke Spector. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us.
Well, good evening. Good to be with you and your audience. Let me just correct one thing. I haven't been a diplomat for the last 20-some years. I retired in 2003, and I've done journalism and consulting and research ever since. So I'm not speaking on behalf of the U.S. government at this point.
No, absolutely. Much understood. So let's just first start with this particular appointment. There's been a lot of speculation in this administration of US President Donald Trump about who would be suitable, particularly given the Trump administration posture over Pretoria's diplomatic policies of late. So why is Bosel's appointment the most strategic in your mind?
Well, let's be clear. Any ambassador from any country to another nation speaks on behalf of the government from whence they came. So they're not freelance artists, for example. I mean, they don't set their own individual course. They may have the nuances that are a little different, and their personalities may matter. But in his hearings for his confirmation at the Senate Foreign Relations Committee a couple of months back, he was very clear, Mr. Bosel was, that he will be carrying out the policies of the Trump administration, and he will be advocating them strenuously, energetically, and vigorously, which is in fact what he'll be paid to do. Now, of course, the challenge is that the two countries, South Africa and the United States, have a series of diplomatic and policy issues that will be interesting to watch how he manages to bridge them in whatever way he can, even as he represents the policies of the Trump administration. And the key issues among them, there are three really. One is the Trump administration's concerns about policies in South Africa, the supposed genocide against white Afrikaner farmers, which pretty much everybody agrees is not happening, as well as the fear of the expropriation of farms, and that hasn't been a forcible policy. We know that as well, and there are all kinds of legal protections built into it. But the Trump administration has taken a very strong stand on that. And the second issue, of course, is South Africa's close ties with countries like Iran, China, and Russia. And the third issue is South Africa's pursuit at the International Court of Justice in a case against Israel. And those three things are the real sticking points as far as the Trump administration is concerned. Now, how Bosel will manage to convey the government's positions, even as he tries to represent his country to South Africa, that's going to be the trick to watch. The one thing I can say about him, and unlike most people, I'm not instinctively reacting to him. I sat down and read 4 of his books, because he's an author and a longtime commentator, and he's wise to the world of the media, that I suspect that he's going to want to engage with organizations such as yours as well and as frequently as he can, as part of the process of advancing his country, his government's goals. And I think that one of the right tacks that the South African government, South African society should take is to encourage that, and encourage that he gets out and around and sees many different kinds of people and places, rather than simply respond to messages from Washington. I think it would be useful to do that. And I think it would be important, and it is even possible he might be able to convey some substance of that back to his home office, although that will also obviously be a hill to climb given the current circumstances.
From what you've mentioned, the books that you've read that he's authored, and the issue of personality, which you mentioned earlier on, that juxtaposition of the mandate from the US government, particularly that geostrategic drift towards Russia, China, and Iran that you mentioned earlier on. how do you anticipate that he would deal with competing matters of what seems to be a very ominous tone towards South Africa about the treatment of white Afrikaners, but at the same time trying to coax South Africa to lean more towards the Western policies that are pleasing to the United States?
Well, as I say, I think one of the key tasks will be to ensure that he sees as broad a range of people and institutions as can be organized and arranged, and that he talks to many different people and many different kinds of people, and that his preconceptions are challenged, or put it another way, that the preconceptions of the American government are challenged. Because he is an experienced media tactician, and he's had lots of different kinds of that experience, my guess is he's going to want to engage, and the South African government, South African institutions would be wise to rise to that challenge and say, look, let us show you the following things about our country. Let us show you the way in which we handle these kinds of questions. And most important of all, perhaps, is to understand and to convey to him the realization that the relationship between South Africa and the United States is not simply the sum total of government to government conversations. I mean, there are lots of different ways the two countries connect, whether it is in terms of cultural activities or trade or business investment or tourism or educational exchanges. There's a deep current of connection that he would be well advised to begin to understand and to embrace and to gain understanding so that he can convey that to his home office. That's all going to be a challenge, both for the embassy staff and for South Africa more generally. But that's the position I'm taking, that given the state of relations between the two governments, these are the kinds of things that are going to make something of a difference.
And I mean, I personally would love to have a conversation, sit down with him to just understand how he would use the diplomatic tools, available to him. But it is also one thing to strike the right note in terms of the diplomatic tone, going on the charm offensive, but it also comes down to what actually occurs at a policy level. For instance, the ICJ case against Israel, that is something that has been used by the US as, a tool to threaten South Africa in terms of AGOA, the revision of it. So I'm just trying to look at the litmus test from, from speak to effectiveness, basically from a South African point of view and from an American point of view. What would be those litmus tests?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things we're all going to have to accept is that there will simply be some things that the two countries, as the two governments, are going to agree that they disagree on. And one of those may well be that case in the Netherlands. One of those other things may well be the nature and the depth of the relationship between South Africa and some other countries. But by the same token, it's going to be important to articulate and convey and convince that the relationship between the two countries, the US and South Africa, is more important. For example, what is the level of trade between South Africa and Russia, or South Africa and Iran? Basically, they're rounding errors in trade statistics. China's a different case. The Chinese trade relationship with South Africa is large and deep, but even here, it is mostly a trade deficit on South Africa's part, and it is almost entirely comprised of raw materials. There's no value added that goes into South African exports to China for the most part. And Mr. Bozell would be well advised to try and show just how much value added goes into exports from South Africa to the U.S., whether it's in the nature of good wines or, fruits, juices, and related agricultural products, or even automobiles. And there are South African-made automobiles that are exported to the United States. You can't say the same is true with Iran, with Russia, or China. And the new ambassador-to-be should be able to convey the importance and the depth of the trade relationship between the two countries as a way of finding common purpose and common ground, rather than only finding the prickly bits.
And just looking back on his career, as you mentioned, that he's enjoyed success in media circles, he certainly has an influence and longevity when it comes to conservative circles. And I'm asking this against the backdrop of various reactions in South Africa to his appointment, some even calling his appointment provocative. But I want to understand him and his career trajectory that has brought him to this point, what may be the challenges that can be reflected through his past career, and the successes that will give hope to those that this is possibly a very open-minded person who's good at his job.
Well, I mean, he's got a particular mindset on things. I mean, he came up through the ranks of the Conservative Political Action Committee, which is not a government institution, but is an alliance, has been over time an alliance of right-wing conservative politicians and would-be politicians to gain access or to exert influence on the government. Has done some filmmaking work, which is not the usual run of things for an ambassador. He's been a stout media critic of the American media in terms of its presumed bias by his standards. And he has been, there was a particular chapter in one of his books toward the end which spoke about the way in which he came to understand Donald Trump. And I found that fascinating. And I would urge listeners and viewers to look at the article which I wrote last April, exploring Brent Bozell's ideas, including this bit on his meeting with Donald Trump. And it's on the Daily Maverick homepage now if you want to look as a repeat article. The one thing you can add to all of that is that he became this kind of figure in the right-wing circles, the conservative circles, and he came to it almost as a family inheritance. His father was active in that direction. His uncle was a leading right-wing conservative journalist in the United States. He spent some years abroad as a young student living in Spain. So there's more to him simply than the caricature that one has seen in the last few days, describing him as, some sort of cartoonish right-winger. I think there's a little bit more there to him. But his views are clear and his views are pretty strong. But views like that have to ultimately be rooted in evidence, and it's important that you bring other evidence to people like that so that they can begin to engage in the recalibration of their thinking. And like you, I would look forward to having an interaction, an interview, a conversation, a colloquy with him early in his term of office, to see what we can figure out about the kinds of things he wants to know about.
And as you mentioned, so he's got a lot of what some would say positive in terms of public-facing communication styles in some cases or experience, but people do point to the moral authority, which you raised in terms of his family history. There's the issue of his son Leo Brent Bozel, the fourth, who was convicted on felony charges related to the January 6 U.S. Capitol attack, and you mentioned other relations which people may point to as somebody who's worth being critical of. But most importantly is you, as somebody who's been in the diplomatic corps, what are the qualities, the suitability for somebody like Bozel that he possesses for a diplomatic post?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we're going to find that out, aren't we? Collectively, in many ways, the most important two attributes of a successful diplomat, whether they're at lower levels or at ambassadorial levels, is the ability to listen intensely and carefully. That's one. And the other is to be able to articulate your positions, your views of your government in a way that is coherent and cogent without getting the backs up of your interlocutor so much that they stop listening to you. And both of those require a certain adroitness, the ability to dance a bit in symbolic terms. And we'll find out whether he can do that. Not every ambassador manages to make that kind of action, to deliver that kind of action. Not every diplomat can. Not every politician can. And we'll find out whether he's made of that kind of stuff or not once he's gotten here and started to make his rounds and start to talk to people and start to appear on programs like yours.
All right. Thank you very much. And hopefully we will catch up with you again when that does happen so that we can circle back to some of these questions. Much appreciated for your time and insights, former veteran U.S. diplomat and media practitioner Brooks Spector, speaking to us about the appointment of America's new ambassador to South Africa. And of course, as we mentioned, that he's still to present his credentials to South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, and we're not yet clear when he will arrive in South Africa, but we do understand it will be something that is in the offing soon.
Got something to say? Are you passionate about issues that matter? Do you have a voice that deserves to be heard? Well, we've got the perfect platform for you. Call in or drop us a WhatsApp on +27 63 406 9126, and we will call you back so you could have your say and be part of the conversation.
30 years of age. I just turned 30 on the 15th of November. So that's who I am,
It's not just talk, it's your chance to air your views, share your opinion, engage with a community that values your perspective. Follow us on our social media. Visit our website at www.channelafrica.co.za and get ready to share your views on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Moving on now, 27 minutes past 9. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has expressed shock and regret over the White House's announcement to withdraw the United States from several UN multilateral entities. Speaking at a media briefing through his spokesperson Stefan Dujarric on Thursday, the Secretary General emphasized that financial contributions to the UN are legal obligations under the UN Charter and reaffirmed that all UN bodies will continue implementing their mandates despite the decision. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
The decision by the United States to withdraw from a number of United Nations entities comes at a time of heightened geopolitical tensions and growing strain on the multilateral system. The move reflects broader shifts in global power dynamics, increasing competition among major powers, and deepening disagreements over international norms, governance, and burden sharing. In recent years, relations among key global actors have been marked by strategic rivalry, protracted conflicts, trade disputes, and diverging approaches to security and development. In a statement delivered by spokesperson Stefan Dujarric, the Secretary General expressed regret over the United States decision and reaffirmed the UN's commitment to continue implementing its mandates.
The Secretary General regrets the announcement by the White House regarding the United States' decision to withdraw from a number of United Nations entities. As we have consistently said and underscored, assess contributions to the United Nations regular budget and the peacekeeping budget as approved by the General Assembly are legal obligations under the United Nations Charter for every member state, including the United States. All United Nations entities will go on with the implementation of their mandates as given to us by member states. The United Nations has a responsibility to deliver for all those who depend on us, and we will continue to carry out our mandates with determination.
The UN has also sounded the alarm over escalating violence in South Sudan, where renewed fighting and airstrikes in Jonglei State have displaced an estimated 100,000 people since late December, most of them women, children, and the elderly.
And in South Sudan, our colleagues for the Office of Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that a surge in conflict and airstrikes in Jonglei states have forced people to flee their homes. Also, it's disrupted humanitarian operations to South Sudanese people. Since the 29th of December, renewed fighting has displaced some 100,000 human beings, mostly women, children, and older people. That's been in several counties. That's what local authorities and our humanitarian partners are telling us. Most of these people are sheltering in remote areas out of fear of further attacks, while others have fled to neighboring states. On Tuesday, authorities in Lakes State said they've registered more than 11,000 people arriving from Jonglei. In northern Jonglei State, several humanitarian organizations have relocated staff due to insecurity, as well as instructions by parties to evacuate the area.
He said the crisis has been further aggravated by reports of widespread looting of humanitarian assistance.
The situation is further compounded by reports from several organizations that their facilities and assets have been looted or confiscated by parties to the conflict. Despite all these challenges, our humanitarian colleagues are continuing to engage with all parties so aid can reach people safely, and people desperately need help. Just as a reminder, last year, more than 715,000 people were displaced by conflict in South Sudan.
Another concern was also raised over the worsening humanitarian situation in Palestine's West Bank, where severe winter weather has damaged or destroyed dozens of tents and makeshift shelters.
And just a quick update on what is going on in the West Bank. Our OCHA colleagues say that over the past 2 weeks, dozens of tents and makeshift shelters in Palestinian Bedouin and herding communities across the West Bank have been damaged or destroyed due to severe winter weather. OCHA also warns of ongoing destruction of Palestinian-owned properties by Israeli authorities for lack of Israeli-issued building permits that are nearly impossible for Palestinians to obtain. Over the past 2 weeks, Israeli authorities demolished 50 structures in Area C and East Jerusalem, displacing more than 50 Palestinians and affecting the livelihoods of some 14,000.
And in Eastern Europe, the UN reports of worsening humanitarian conditions in Ukraine, where recent attacks have killed and injured civilians and severely damaged energy and port infrastructure in different regions. Nearly 2 million people have been left without electricity amid freezing temperatures, prompting authorities in Dnipro city to declare a national-level emergency as essential services remain disrupted.
And lastly, from Ukraine, our humanitarian colleagues on the ground say that authorities are telling us that between yesterday and this morning, attacks across Ukraine killed and injured several civilians while damaging critical energy and port infrastructure in the regions of Dnipro, Odessa, and Zaporizhzhia. Nearly 2 million people have been left without electricity as temperatures have dropped close to 0 Celsius. Our humanitarian colleagues note that heating, water supply, and mobile communications and public electric transport were also disrupted. The mayor of Dnipro City declared a national level emergency due to interruption of basic services.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
At 27 minutes to 10, we look to this story now. The Reuters news agency reporting that alleged witnesses to the violence by Tanzanian police targeted at an anti-government protest saw officers shooting indiscriminately at people who were not even protesting. The sources allege that some of those shot and killed were kilometers away from any known demonstrations. This comes as details are beginning to surface following the resurfacing of a 2025 video which purportedly shows the aftermath of one such attack with 13 limp bodies splayed on the blood-soaked ground. The massacre, which took place in Mjiwema, is one of the deadliest known incidents from days of violence around Tanzania's October 29 elections. For more on this, coming out of Tanzania, we are joined on the line by Channel Africa correspondent in that country, Prosper Kwigizi. Prosper, very good evening to you. So what can you just tell us about the latest on what is happening at the moment around this issue there?
Yeah, good evening. Yes, as you said, the incident occurred in Tanzania during election, and the current status is that the government, through the president of the United Republic of Tanzania, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, she has appointed a special committee which is dealing now to collect information, maybe evidences on what exactly happened and why. And then the committee will report to the president, whereby maybe the government will decide what to do after the report.
So we are seeing international news outlets like CNN and Reuters saying that they have verified metadata from videos showing the police firing live rounds of ammunition at unarmed crowds. Has there been any more? And I'd imagine that the protection of the sources is also very important, but is there any indication of where this footage was taken, by whom, and not necessarily raising the credibility thereof, but also just talking about the strength of the evidence that is being presented?
It is very difficult to identify those videos and to know who exactly took those videos, because, you know, during the election, almost 3 to 5 days, the internet was shut down. So it was not easier to communicate through internet. And those video was started distributed through social media later on after the internet switched on. And the government issued a warning that those videos should not be displayed anywhere because it may cause attention to the community. And they said, so long as the government is working on that issue to identify the incidents, whether it's true or not true, then the government will issue the comment or the statement on really the real report, whether it's true or it's not true.
But what is coming out, particularly from police officials down, the value chain from government? Because we're hearing witnesses in Arusha and Dar es Salaam describing police firing indiscriminately. So is there any word on whether there was an official shoot to kill order?
There is no any official statement from the police or other government security organs explained on exactly who assigned to shoot those people who have been on riot in the streets, or whether it's the police or not the police. The government said they don't know until the committee formed by the president came out with the report. But till now, the government declined to say anything about that.
But have they at least issued an official death toll to, put paid to the numbers that are being bandied about, as in how many people were actually killed, not only on that day in October, but during that period?
Not yet till to date. The the Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania, Mwigulu Nchemba, had a press conference with the journalists last year, and one of the questions were how many people killed, and who issued the command to show the people. The Prime Minister said there is no any information about how many people were killed, though he listed down the infrastructure, houses, government offices, police station, and other equipments that have been destroyed by the people who have been in that at that event. But yet he refused to mention how many people have been killed. And also the president of Tanzania, in her meeting with the old people in Dar es Salaam, also the same. She didn't say anything about how many people killed, but issued the information that there are, I can say, the conspiracy from European countries forcing people to do riot, to go on the streets, to destroy Tanzania peace, and he issued a warning that she will never agree to take the country into trouble.
All right, we're going to leave it there, Prosper. Thank you very much. That's Channel Africa's correspondent in Tanzania, Prosper Kwigizi.
Ahoy, matey! Ahoy, matey!
Captain here to help, right, boys?
Set sail with us on a digital voyage like no other. Channel Africa has a treasure trove of awesomeness. That is our website and social media pages.
Tell me, why are you here?
We want you to be part of our adventure.
The winds are changing, Captain. And this time...
Imagine a world where curiosity knows no bounds, where entertainment meets enlightenment, and where every click leads to the African perspective. Visit us on our website, www.channelafrica.co.za, or follow us on Instagram or on X at Channel Africa One. Go on, like us on Facebook at Channel Africa One. So, spread the word. Tell a friend that Channel Africa's online variety is what they need on the web. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Tsepiso Makwetla winds it down on African World Hour, 9 to 10 p.m.
And it is now 19 minutes to 10. The government of the Republic of South Sudan has called for its citizens to grow peace from within its communities, nurtured by what it says is truth, justice, humility, and acts of service. The call was made by Africa's youngest nation as it commemorated its 15th Peace Day following the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement between the government in Khartoum and the Sudan's People's Liberation Movement Army in 2011. In a statement on Friday, the government reminded the South Sudanese that their independence was purchased at an extraordinary cost, countless lives lost, with bodies buried and others not. For a look at what this day means to the people of South Sudan, we're joined now on the line by the head of the Secretariat of the Homegrown Peace Initiative for South Sudan, Merakaje Lona. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Perhaps let's just first start with context where South Sudan is now, and it can really talk about a peace day in 2026.
Well, thank you very much. I think when you look at, it depends on how you look at it. From a very positive perspective, I think we will say that South Sudan at the moment cannot talk about Peace Day. But if you look at it, that's from a very, if you want to see South Sudan in a positive place based on what happened about 21 years ago. But if you look at the suffering of the people, if you look at the citizens, the situation of the citizens, there's no any other better day for us to commemorate the 9th of January, because that was for the first time after a very long struggle that the people of South Sudan had hope and saw light at the end of the tunnel. So at the moment, we we have been subjected to a situation whereby we are looking for another light at the end of the tunnel, and we could not remember anything other than 9th of January 2005.
And just also reflecting back on what we saw as political tensions over the past year with the arrest of Vice President Riek Machar, and, the political tensions that continue to prove to be a source of instability. Can you just contextualize it for us as those watching the South Sudan project, exactly what the South Sudanese are experiencing and what it means for a long-lasting peace?
Well, I think what is happening in South Sudan at the moment and the arrest of first Vice President is causing more confusion than construction. And to the ordinary citizens, it's a situation whereby people are asking themselves, what is the value of this for us as a nation? And how is it going to help build peace and restore stability in the country? From the time the first Vice President was arrested, already the country was going down economically. But right now, the situation is even worse. So whether it's the arrest of the first Vice President or the court case, neither have done any good to the country. Other people would say that, well, let the due process take its own course so that we are able to test the ability of the legal system in South Sudan. But as things are progressing, people are actually not hopeful that the court process is going to add more value or contribute to peace, because what we're looking for is something else. And as Homegrown Peace Initiative, we had conversation with different volunteers on the WhatsApp group. Now we are over 245 volunteers. And in that conversation, to us, peace is summarized into few things. One, certainty. We need certainty as citizens of the country. We are tired of the uncertainties where you actually live in a country which is unpredictable. Other people want to be able to move from point A to B. Like, we cannot move between one town and the other. So if your relatives are on the other side, it becomes quite difficult. One has to think twice before accessing them, plus many more. Currently, South Sudanese children are even not going to school in so many parts of the country. And economically, the country is not doing well. So if you look at these things that mean peace to the ordinary citizen, the arrest of first Vice President is not contributing to it in any way.
I'm glad that you are framing it in that way, because it is important for us to understand what the day-to-day implications are of the instability, insecurity. And from the organizations, volunteers, communities that you are interacting with, what is their understanding of the cause of the fragility, the continued violent tensions that we're seeing? Is it a failure of political governance, or is it also a failure of not engaging a grassroots to ensure long-lasting peace?
It's a mix of both. If you look at peace processes in South Sudan, it has been mainly elite-driven. And the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, which was signed in 2005, attempted to include citizens, and I would say there was a bit of dissemination, and people understood what the agreement was all about and what is in it for citizens. But from the time we got independence, and from 2005 to 2018 agreements, it's basically elite-driven. So yes, on one side, the citizens have been left out of the peace processes in the country, as in the implementation of the peace, but also there's a failure of the political class to be able to govern the country and have an agenda for the country. The political class are rolling through this, and getting their hands on national resources and having money for themselves, but not services for the people. So that is a problem. And it's a problem that is ailing South Sudan, and it has to be addressed.
And just in terms of the support that you are getting from external and internal parties and ensuring, as you say, the vehicles for enjoying peace, when we're talking about not only livestock corridors, the markets, water infrastructure, which we know has also been a major problem. Is there enough of intentionality from those organizations, or what are the major stumbling blocks?
Well, I think many people will agree that if the government is not giving direction for a country, it's difficult to comprehensively help that country. I must acknowledge the work of aid workers. Humanitarian workers in South Sudan have done amazingly well. But because of the confusion that the country is in, it's quite difficult. Sometimes you would realize that the efforts that are being done is watered down by the action of government officials. Like the recent case, government officials have confiscated vehicles of a humanitarian aid organization. So the question is it the government to provide security, or the government has become a source of insecurity for institutions that have come to the country to help the country? And I must say that, yes, there are challenges. I'm not saying that the humanitarian agencies are angels, but I think first thing first, we need to put our house in order as South Sudanese before we start looking at what else is coming with an outsider. And we all know if your house is not in order, you're bound to meet a lot of obstacles, and neighbors will come and raid. So South Sudan is in that situation at the moment. It's very sad.
Well, we do hope that we are able to reconnect with you again and explore further peace efforts and, as you say, the stumbling blocks on what not only the region can do, but what individuals can do to help South Sudan enjoy peace. That is the head of the Secretariat of the Homegrown Peace Initiative for South Sudan, Merakaje Lorna, speaking about its 15-year anniversary this year. And that brings the time to 9 minutes to 10. It's a Friday. Shayla and Kumana in the studio. I actually said today is the Friday, the 9th of January. I said it was the 10th, but it's actually the 9th.
January is doing a thing to everyone. The first 2 weeks of Jan is not...
I don't know. I think I'm experiencing this January far different to others. I cannot explain it. But I feel like maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I arrived
What are
too
you
soon.
feeling? What are you feeling?
Discom bobs, man. I'm just like, we are here, but not really quite there. It's like I'm dipping my toes, but I'm here.
Yeah.
It's hit me like a ton of bricks, but
yeah,
we'll catch up with it in Feb.
Oh my days. No, it can't be Feb. I can't believe that it's just the second week of Jan.
But that's what I'm saying.
It feels
Before
like
you
we've
know
been...
it, you will be in February and you'll be thinking, yo, Ghana, that was January.
You think so?
I'm feeling it. It's going to go like this.
You know what? Speaking about going like this and that, our captain of industry this evening is Paul King Kamanga, and he's the founder of a kickboxing studio, and he's going to be joining us in studio. Firstly, I don't understand why people would. The sport, why? Why?
Do you know what? I actually would have loved to.
Trained?
Kickboxing.
As a boxer?
Yeah. Kickboxing specifically.
Okay.
Because there's an element of martial arts to it, I think. Like,
why do we want to beat each other is the question.
It's not sometimes about that. I think self-defense lessons are very important.
Yes, yes.
And I think it's about physical fitness, being adept, adroit, you know.
You see, we can run for that.
Bruce Lee.
No, that's the problem right there. That's the problem. Because it's
an art form.
It's an art, but the minute I need to collide against the next person, then it's not worth it for me. But Paul is here to change my mind. He's also here to school us on the art itself. For those who do think like me, who think, why are we beating? Like, what is the point?
But if you think about it, I get it. It's like, reflex training, etc., etc. So, I mean, if what you're engaging is sportsmanly behavior, you're not doing it to injure.
No, but he has, because he's won championships and he's multifaceted in that space, right? For lightweight, for superweights, we've seen him garner all kinds of accolades. So the question for me is, what is the end game? And I'm saying this because cauliflower ears are a real thing, right? People having issues with brains and whatnot have you. I've seen too many documentaries or short videos even about how somebody was okay and then they stepped into a match and now the cauliflower ear is there.
There is rugby.
I still don't understand that sport as well. I respect the sport, right? There's a respect for it to say that there are people who are skilled at this particular kind of game. But the pain and the fact that there are women who do it as well.
I think it's like with every sport, there are injuries involved, you know? And that's why I'm saying if you're doing it in the spirit of sportsmanship, and I'm not his spokesperson, God knows. But I'm just saying on some level, I get it. But if you think about it, people emotionally injure other people.
Wait.
Why Bana? At least Bana, it's like
you went too far.
But I am just.
Oh my God, that one is not a sport. Okay, that's just, you need to self-defense in that space, right? And that much I understand.
There are people who write books about how to manipulate other people, how to break down other people emotionally, psychologically. They do it like it's a sport. So at least this one,
it's physical. We can see the injury.
No, but I'm just saying it's matched.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying.
Okay.
You're playing with somebody of your own skin. And guess what? They know that you are coming for them.
Tsepiso. African Diaries is up next in a short bit. It's up next. It's a Friday, ma'am. It's a Friday.
We'll let loose after I get to it.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Nighttime radio, just the way you like it, on Channel Africa, where the night comes alive.
And we end off with this on Africa World. I'm already into African Diaries. I told you I'm moving fast this year, people. I'm in it. I'm in the middle of the year. But okay, let's roll back to Africa World Hour for a few more minutes, and we end with this. US President Donald Trump saying that there could be more strikes by the US in Nigeria if Christians are killed in the West African nation, even as Nigeria has previously denied Christians there are being subjected to systemic persecution. Trump's comments in an interview with New York Times were published on the newspaper's website on Thursday. Tutongubeni has more on this.
Trump made the remarks when asked about Washington's Christmas Day military strike in Nigeria. The U.S. military said at the time it carried out a strike against Islamic State militants in northwest Nigeria at the request of Nigeria's government. Nigeria said then that the strike was a joint operation targeting terrorists and had nothing to do with a particular religion. I'd love to make it a one-time strike, but if they continue to kill Christians, it will be a many-time strike, Trump was quoted as saying. When asked about his own Africa advisor having said that Islamic State and Boko Haram militants were killing more Muslims than Christians, Trump responded, "I think that Muslims are being killed also in Nigeria, but it's mostly Christians." Trump, in late October, began warning that Christianity faces an existential threat in Nigeria and threatened to militarily intervene in the West African nation over what he says is its failure to stop violence targeting Christian communities. Nigeria's population of over 230 million people is roughly evenly divided among Christians who predominate in the south and Muslims who predominate in the north. While Nigeria has had persistent security problems, including violence and kidnappings by Islamist insurgents in the north, it strongly denies that Christians are subjected to systematic persecution. Its government responded to Trump's past threats by saying it intended to work with Washington against militants while rejecting U.S. language that suggested Christians were in particular peril. Nigerian authorities note that militants have killed many Muslims as well as Christians. For Channel Africa News, I am Tutongobene in Johannesburg.
And that's how we come to the end of Africa World Hour this Friday. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing and your listening here on Channel Africa. As you heard, we were just speaking to Shayla Ndukumana. She was giving us a snapshot of what's up next. Kickboxing, if that's your thing, find out why, find out how, and of course, find out, the reason behind it. As she says, please give us a rationale behind why this is a sport. Well, from me and the team, it's good night for now. Until the next time, goodbye.
When the sun goes down, we don't stop the talk. Channel Africa.